Empowering auditors. EAI co-piloting ABC, audit firms, banks and companies. By SYS governance standards. Subject, object, self-governance standards. Corporate MOM, Corporate Management Orbiter Mission. Here I give FEC report for audit firms separately. Auditors' grace, governance, responsibility, authority, credibility, and enablement. I'm looking at it, the causality in terms of the stature of the auditing profession before and after IAS 38 emerged in 1998. It defined intangible assets. An intangible asset is an identifiable, non-monetary asset without physical substance. 1. Governance. Before IAS 38, IAS 9, the instrument by which the governance could be administered by the audit profession, stood up to the pressure. After IAS 38 governance, audit profession lost its control of governance over the accounting standard on account of IAS 38 intangible assets being published without the key word intangible being defined. It's not being defined even today, even by any dictionary. Take a look. Number 2, responsibility. Before IAS 38 emerged, during the Lockheed Guilfoyle scandals, setting a precedent for taking responsibility, audit firm Pitt Marwick Mitchell undertook the responsibility of clearing their names by appointing Audit Young for the peer review of their auditing practices. Responsibility today, after IAS 38, the big four firms shirked the responsibility and meekly told the OECD that it was management's responsibility, the blame for oversight belonging to those charged with governance. Don't come to me, go to them. Number 3, authority. Before IAS 38, industry was made aware that they had no other recourse than to get the approval from the professional accounting bodies through published accounting standards for any inclusion or change of balance sheet items. That meant that a journal entry at the corporate level needed prior approval before the accounting governing body. Governance was at its best. Authority after IAS 38. From 1988, the industry tried to rule over the balance sheet that the audit profession lost its hold on account of IAS 38. In 2007, this led to the omitting of the investments in intangibles, and $4.1 trillion US dollar was excluded from the published national accounts data in the United States. The audit profession had become irrelevant. Number 4, credibility. Before IAS 38, let me quote the Time magazine, an article on auditing the auditor, July 1, 1974. No profession has suffered a more painful drop in public esteem than the accounting. In recent years, accountants have been regularly criticized for failing to expose corporate shenanigans and have been sued for allegedly certifying misleading company earnings reports. Pitt Marwick moved to restore the confidence by volunteering to have his company's procedures audited by colleagues from competitive firms. Audit Young and Company, one of the accounting big eights, to scrutinize its practices. Audit Young gave a clean sheet. Note, credibility of Audit Young is important at that point of time also. Now today, in credibility after IAS 38 Today, NFRA has debarred two senior auditors from Deloitte. Can Deloitte ask their procedures audited by colleagues from competing firms? Finally, number 5, enablement. Before AS 38, the balance sheet emerged as an enabled instrument. There were no holes. After AS 38, in fact, the most interesting one, which I feel is very important for auditors to note, in 2002, the WorldCam scandal was a major accounting scandal that came into light. A scheme to inflate earnings in order to maintain WorldCom's stock price. The fraud was uncovered in June 2002 when the company's internal audit unit, led by Unit Vice President Cynthia Scooper, discovered over $3.8 billion of fraudulent balance sheet entries. Eventually, WorldCom was forced to admit it had overstated its assets by over $11 billion. At the time, it was the largest accounting fraud in American history. About a year later, the company went bankrupt. Key point is that it had overstated its assets. That would not have happened if IAS 9 R&D capitalization or development costs was not removed. The lessons we learn and the key points for action forward. Number 1. Institute of Chartered Accountants of India must take steps to remove intangible assets and replace with a standard capitalization of R&D and development costs. Number 2. The audit firms feel good to restore grace. Balance sheet is their territory, and allowing a non-monetary so-called asset to creep in is their mistake entirely. Correct it now. Now. Number 3. Let me present FEC and CREAM report for audit firms plus how to prepare an SQM. This is a FEC report for the audit firms. Fiscal and Ethical Co-Responsibility Framework. Co-responsibility framework is the most important thing because of what we owe the society, for which the society depends on the auditor's credibility. It's very important and the most important thing. There's no other firm or a consulting firm or companies the society do not much care about. They care a lot about the auditors. That auditors are their representative, ethically and morally being run by the company. They depend only on the auditors. So that is a co-responsibility framework which audit firms shall take note of. When we look at that CREAM report, corporate governance, risk management, earnings, accounting quality and management quality. E for earnings is the only one which is quantitative, which we take it from balance sheet and P&L, nothing else. Corporate governance, risk management, accounting quality and management quality do not get into that quantitative, and they are qualitative elements of management, code of conduct, etc. So if you look at that IAS 38, intangible assets, a non-monetary asset has been included in the earnings, that is your balance sheet. If you remove it, it will be perfectly all right. You'll have only the full quantitative elements. If you look at that CREAM, there are 308 process blocks, out of which 12 belongs to earnings. The balance 296 belongs, they are all non-monetary assets. So we are able to differentiate between two types of assets. One is fiscal assets, another is non-monetary assets. If you look at the fiscal responsibility, we have the fiscal assets, which are all the buildings and machineries and other things and all that. Whereas non-monetary assets, they are the ethical assets. When you say 296 of various areas in which the individuals have to function, non-monetary assets are the ethical assets of the company. that do not belong to the company at that point of time belongs, but it belongs to the individual who prepared that. That's where you see the subject. It is the subject governance we look into that. So the auditors are looking into the object governance mainly, that is Yannick's. They are not looking into the subject governance. How the individuals within a company behave themselves, conduct themselves in terms of four other factors which we have brought it here. But they have to have, being the one and the only representative of the society, they ought to have the third factor, self-governance. The self-governance belong to the auditors. That is where policies and regulatory compliance and other things are being brought into the picture. That is the one which I shall indicate in the next page on SQM, how to do that. This is auditor's responsibility. Let me quote from ICAI's SQM1, a small portion. The firm's a system of quality management. A system of quality management operates in a continual and iterative manner and is responsive to changes in the nature and circumstances of the firm and its engagements. It also does not operate in a linear manner. I have a different opinion. However, for the purpose of this SQM, the system of quality management addresses the following 8 components. Reference para A3. Number 1, the firm's risk assessment process. Number 2, governance and leadership. Number 3, relevant ethical requirements. Number 4, acceptance and continuance of client relationships and specific engagements. Number 5, engagement performance. Number 6, resources. Number 7, information and communication. And number 8, the monitoring and remediation process. When we look at the company, we look at in terms of the bricks and mortars, the big buildings. But including the audit firms, whether at PwC or Deloitte, we look at the big buildings and the symbol is in terms of what it gives as an entirety. But hundreds and thousands of people are working within a company. So I am illustrating here to prepare a CREAM report enabling the firm's system of quality management, 8 quality management areas which had been given by ICAI, compacted in CREAM report of 5 areas. That's my advice. Now, when you look at the corporate body, 6 limbs of corporate body, the nose is the intangible. It converts mass into pure energy. That is E equal to mc square, mass into pure energy. Mouth is the grammar of the corporate atomic structure. Feet, or the measurement through powerful metrics. Ear is the dictionary of the learning management system. I is the long-range planning and short-range action. CAGR brought to CDGR, compounded daily growth rate. CARR converted into CDRR, daily reduction rate. Hand is the work. 4 auxiliary limbs of the corporate body. Number 1, explication of the corporate laws and management quality. Number 2, science of reasoning, sustainability of efficiency. Number 3, strategies, sustainability of profits. Number 4, ethical responsibility, sustainability of value system. Companies have to move forward from accounting to accountability, which is very much lacking mainly because accounting is not based on science but a debit credit hypothesis. It has tied the management down to ex post facto analytics. Accounting cannot bring in accountability, but corporate governance can. I propose a strategy of dividing large workforces into small 5-member teams with 1 member focused on ethical responsibility to track performance and improve accountability. Corporate governance, analytics, disparate companies like say ICICI Bank or Deloitte can be compared with say Bajaj Auto. So this is the one you can download all these 6 files. It gives the introduction to the corporate atomic structure and the detailed analytics or fixing the standards as well as governance standards for M&M and Reliance. This would help you to start in terms of making yourself important for yourself. Because when we say 2047, Viksit Bharat has got a target. The target has to be achieved. Whether you are as on today, I found both M&M and as well as Reliance are not fit, are not capable as on today to reach on the target of 2047 at a particular percentage of CAGR of 15%. One can do that for 2%, 3%. Then where is your contribution for Fixed Bharat 2047? You got to fix the CAGR of minimum 15% for each company and go towards that. And that is what this antics of M&M and Reliance have come about. And you should try.